I have been on the border all my life. As you know, I have been working to help the situation along. And I don't think that the Republicans coming to the border to speak to the Border Patrol is the answer. How come they never speak to the migrants themselves? They don't want to become citizens. They want to become residents. They're looking for a life, not necessarily a better life, but a life to escape the violence, the environmental situation, the politics. And much of that has to do with the United States. The United States has 4.5% of the world's population, yet it consumes a third of the world's illegal drugs. It consumes a third of the natural resources. It provides weapons to these countries. That is not the solution. The solution is to work with these countries, come up with a plan that makes sense to both countries. Comprehensive immigration reform is something that a lot of people have battled for a long, long time. And we're not any closer today. I think both the Republicans and the Democrats have done a bad job. And I believe that the solution will be coming in the next administration. Hopefully it will be Biden, but I don't think Biden or Trump will be the candidates. I think they're both not going to be there for 2024. Trump because of his legal problems and Biden because of his health. So I hope that we really do have humane immigration reform. I'm right here on the border, and not one of those migrants has said, I want to become a citizen. They just want to get their papers so they could come here and be saved. It's a worldwide situation. It's not that just the U.S. and Mexico. And here on this border, U.S. and Mexico, never is there a bigger difference of the two countries. The United States being the most powerful country in the world and Mexico being a developing country. Neither country is bad, but let's have humane immigration reform, more asylum judges, more immigration attorneys. That is the real solution.
Enrique, what do you make of especially the push from Republicans for asylum seekers who have traveled through another country where they may be eligible for asylum? They want to stop people from coming to the U.S. if they have traveled through another country where they could have sought asylum. This is, I think, maybe sort of tangential to the quote-unquote remain in Mexico policy. Do you see that as effective? Is that something that you can easily apply to people who are seeking to come here? What's the actual effect, and is that feasible in your mind?
Well, a lot of people are actually looking for asylum in Mexico, and Mexico has granted asylum. But I think that the United States should be more forgiving of these people and let them have an asylum hearing. It's a terrible situation for them. Mexico has done a really bad job. I think AMLO, the president, is not doing a very effective job. I don't think Mayorkas is doing an effective job either. But we got to stay away from Trump. He was very dangerous, separating families, shooting people through the border wall, and so forth. But let's think of 2024 and beyond. I think that we should have more humane immigration reform. This is a worldwide situation. It's not just here on the Western Hemisphere. It's also happening in Europe and other parts of the world where there's more migration than ever because of the environment, the violence, the hunger, and so forth. Let's provide humane immigration for these people. We have plenty of space. Yes, it's a challenge, but we can't be using these political ploys like Abbott and DeSantis are with using the migrants as political ploys and busing them or flying them to other states. That is not the way to do it. We should have a solution. We have had many attempts at this for many decades, and I know that we can do it. It's good. It's going to be a binational situation that we have to work on. And I know the United States and the other countries can do it. Sí se puede.
Enrique, could you tell us a little more about especially what has happened in the past few years? What are the underlying causes in South and Central America driving the recent border surge? What are those root causes?
Well, those causes, not only there, but also in Africa and Asia, is the environment, the fact that there's environmental challenges. The United States is more responsible for environmental damage than any other country in the world. When you talk about it per capita, it's also the situation with lack of resources, lack of resources to provide jobs for them. It's also the situation of violence in their countries. These are all situations that are happening all over the world. And the United States and the country where they're coming from have to do a better job. And they can do a better job. Remember, years ago, we had this issue with Colombia, and Colombia was able to straighten it out. We also had the situation in other countries, and we were able to straighten it out. We should not be pitting this with giving aid to Ukraine or the Middle East. They should be separate issues. This should be separate issues. The United States is a much greater country than that. Most of the people in this country were once immigrants. Before we were us, we were them. And we were able to settle this issue. Now is no different. It is a situation in which the whole world seems to be closing in on them, and nobody wants to help them. We believe that we should have humane immigration reform. Love has no borders. And of course, we want security. But most of the migrants are not a problem as far as security is concerned. Domestic terrorists are more of a problem. And we need to look at the realities of the situation, not the myths.
And given your firsthand knowledge of the situation, I know this is discussed a lot in a political lens, but in the reality of it, can you, Enrique, tell us a little bit more about the state of people who make it to the U.S. when they seek asylum, when they either cross the border or present themselves at a crossing point, in terms of their safety? A lot of them have made it through a dangerous area, are paying somebody to bring them here. Tell us a little bit about the state of safety and well-being, or sometimes lack thereof, of people when they arrive finally at the U.S.
Well, we have a situation right here in San Diego. Only an hour from us is Jacumba. And Jacumba is where a lot of the migrants have crossed. That's in the U.S. And they cross over there, and they're left out in the open. It's freezing at night. It gets very hot in the day. And we need to have a situation where these people can have shelter. They should be treated in a humane manner. They don't know what's going on. They speak different languages, Chinese, Spanish, etc. And the culture is very different. For example, if the person is from southern Mexico, when the Border Patrol tells them, look at me when I'm talking to you, that's a sign of disrespect in their culture. So there's always this game going on where people don't know how to respond. We need to be more sensitive to these people. The overwhelming majority of them are just looking for a life. I was at a synagogue recently, and somebody said, I saw you on TV the other day. I don't know why these children are coming unaccompanied. And I said, you know the story of Moses better than I do. And when Moses' mom put him in the river to go to cross the river, she didn't know if he was going to live or die. But she knew that if her baby stayed in Egypt, he was going to die. It's the same situation. It's an act of love. So we should be responding in the same manner. We are a country that has had the history of welcoming migrants. Sometimes we haven't always welcomed them. Look at the Canadian border. There's no wall with Canada. It's twice as big as the length of the Mexican border. And we know a lot of people have been going through there. This is really race-based. It's unfair. And we all need to do a better job.